everyone. Jessica Morales joining you now with Porter Bennett, who is the co-founder and CEO of B3. Thank you for joining us, Porter.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here.
We want to start off by talking about water management. We know a lot of that topic being focused on right now. There's infrastructure concerns amongst others, of course, but what are you seeing right now?
A lot of casting about for the right answer is really the best way to put it. It's fascinating. I have my history in 40 years in the oil and gas business, and I look at this and the way it's evolving in that context, and there's so many differences. I think the technology is the technological change that's going on here is important. They're trying to figure out what the right way to do it is. I mean, there's concerns about seismicity. There's concerns about overpressuring. There's lots of uncertainty in the process, and the companies are trying to grasp with that, and it's pretty good.
How can midstream firms, if you will, Porter, be able to best serve producers' needs? You know, everyone working together, I guess, talking it out, working together in that way.
Producers. There's always going to be a tendency amongst producers to do it themselves. That's just the way it is. So the first thing that midstream companies have to do is overcome that. That's not easy. And in order to do it, they're going to have to be able to demonstrate that their option is more economically beneficial. It's technically more sounder. They're going to have to demonstrate the value of what they bring to the table. I think implicit in that is a lot of education. There are things that some companies are doing well. There are other things that companies aren't doing quite as well, and some that they don't do well at all. And I think that because a midstream player, you know, some of the companies that are trying to become midstream players are they work with a number of different producers, so they obviously, just by the nature of their business, they see a lot of different solutions. And I think that education role, bringing that back to the producers, is really important. The producer self-directed approach to this, and the midstream player approach. And I don't see how in the long run the producer-directed approach or the self-controlled approach is going to work as well as the midstream, just because you can't get the economies of scale. But I don't think that people understand the economies of scale yet. Companies like HTO Midstream or Waterbridge, those guys are doing a terrific job, but they're working in a relatively constrained area. They're working in a subpart of the Delaware Basin, for example. Mm-hmm. Is that the right scale to think about these solutions on, or should it be the broader Delaware Basin, or maybe it's the Midland Delaware, maybe it's the Permian? That kind of answer it's too early in the game to know how it's going to play out. So I think it's a lot of what they bring to producers, the midstream companies, is the ability to educate and kind of recommend what works and what doesn't.
Now, Porter, can you tell us about the foundation of B3?
The foundation of B3, it grew out of essentially my career, and I've spent 40 years. Essentially, one way you can look at it is I've been building databases and information systems that bring transparency to opaque markets, and that's Bentech, my first company. That's what we did in the gas world. At the end, we brought it to a degree to the oil side of the business. With Ponderosa, we were looking at the ability to understand oil and the complexity of different grades of oil. And how that affected the market, and then cost structures of different basins, different operators, and so those systems were all designed to do that. What B3 is doing now is taking that approach and bringing it to water. We've brought water is an interesting subject in this kind of a context because it's very state specific. The data sets are different across states. The way the regulatory structures work are different. It's a much more complex undertaking, and so what we're trying to do is, by state, as we go through the country, we're assembling all the data that we can get our hands on, whether it's surface rights for water rights, or whether it's wells, disposal wells, all sorts of data on disposal wells, business practices, a whole lot of different kind of disparate data, and put it into what I think is a very elegant and very sophisticated information system, an IT, a software framework.
And we've talked about some challenges. We hear infrastructure concerns and things like that, but can you talk to me about what you see on the positive end, what people are excited about in the Permian Basin and the Midland area as well?
Well, it starts with the exuberance about the resource, production trends in the basin, and you can't look at that without being impressed. I mean, that's really pretty exciting. So that's number one, and all the political, economic implications of that. Number two is the way the industry is beginning to cope with water. There's all sorts of infrastructure challenges out here, but the gathering, the oil, the processing challenges, those are relatively easy to cope with. I think the bigger challenge is the water one, and it's a bigger challenge because, number one, it's a resource that we use in our daily lives. Everybody uses it, everybody relates to it, and whether it's right or wrong, there's a underlying assumption that's a zero-sum game. If the oil and gas industry uses water here, it's not available to be used over there to grow crops or whatever. That probably is going to prove to be not true. The third thing, which to me is the degree of technical innovation that's going on in this industry. It really is pretty impressive. And it's not just the geology of drilling the disposal wells and trying to avoid seismic areas and all that. It's the chemistry, how you deal with the brackish water, how you deal with different kinds of bacteria or different kinds of solid matter that's in the flowback water. I mean, there's just a tremendous amount of research going on, of learning and so forth, and I think that's a really positive thing.
Thank you for your time, Porter. We appreciate it.
I appreciate the opportunity to be here.
You're very welcome. And for Heart Energy, I'm Jessica Morales.
To stay up to date on the most recent Heart Energy videos, subscribe to our YouTube channel by clicking here.